I have seen a certain tendency in the A Song of Ice and Fire community when discussing Sansa Stark. They treat her early characterization as though it is a character flaw that George expects us to condemn. Sansa is undeniably naive. She likes pretty dresses, she believes in songs, she dreams of marrying her perfect prince and has little to no understanding of the political world into which she will eventually be thrown into. Compared with other characters like Arya, Jon, and even Bran, Sansa can seem to be remarkably sheltered, although Jon is as dramatic as her in the early books. Anyway, coming back to Sansa. We as readers already have the privilege of knowing that the world of A Song of Ice and Fire is nothing like the stories Sansa loves. It becomes very easy to look back at her early chapters and think, how could she believe any of this? But I think that question misses what George intends to do with her as a character. Sansa isn't simply a naive girl who happens to believe in fairy tales. She is a girl who was raised inside one. From the beginning of the series, Sansa has been taught what a successful life for a noble woman is supposed to look like. She learns to sew, to sing, to dance, and to conduct herself properly, to understand the rituals and expectations of an aristocratic society. She is taught how to become a desirable young woman and eventually a desirable wife. Her mother and Septa Morden, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, aren't deliberately doing anything sinister to her. Quite the opposite. They're preparing her for the life that Westerosi society considers appropriate for her. And it becomes obvious that Sansa is exceptionally good at it. Catelyn, her mother, describes Sansa as little lady, always courteous and eager to please. And that description tells us something important. The qualities for which Sansa is later criticized are, at this point in her life, precisely the qualities for which she has been awarded her whole life. She is polite, she is graceful, she understands social expectations, she wants to please her family, she wants to become the sort of woman everyone around her has told her she ought to become. The contrast with Arya, therefore, isn't simply a contrast between a sensible girl and a foolish one. Arya is actively resisting the identity that her society has assigned to her, while Sansa has already kind of embraced it. When Arya tells Ned that she doesn't want to be a lady, Sansa's position is almost the exact opposite. She does want to be a lady, because being a lady is the future she has been taught to desire and to want. Sansa has been given stories as a framework through which to understand the world. The songs of Westeros provide her with a moral framework. Knights are brave and honorable, princesses are beautiful, princes are noble, kings are majestic, and love leads to marriage. And that love and duty can both be found in marriage, which leads to happiness and entertainment. They have become the language through which she understands adulthood. At one point in the books, all she wants is for things to be nice and pretty, the way they were in the songs. That sentence is often used as evidence of Sansa's childishness, but I think it's profoundly sad. This poor little girl desperately wants the world to resemble the only model of adulthood she has been given, so she could guide herself through it. She has been taught that marriage is the culmination of a woman's life. She hasn't yet developed a sense of self that exists independently of these expectations. Sansa's infatuation with Joffrey is frequently treated as though she should somehow have recognized his cruelty immediately. But what exactly is she supposed to recognize? She is 12 or 13 years old. She has spent her childhood hearing stories about noble knights and is suddenly standing in front of the heir to the Iron Throne. Joffrey certainly looks the part. He's good looking, he's tall, he's graceful. He has the title, the clothes, the lineage, the castle, and all the outward symbols that Sansa has been taught to associate with nobility. She isn't exactly falling in love with Joffrey as a person so much as she is falling in love with what Joffrey represents. That is why her relationship with Joffrey works so well as kind of like a reverse fairy tale. However, this structure of thought breaks during a pivotal moment in the first book, and that is Ned Stark's execution. Watching her own father beheaded is the moment when Sansa's fairy tale dies. That is an extraordinarily important realization for them. The problem isn't simply that Sansa has discovered Joffrey's evil, she has discovered that the moral structure she was given as a child is utterly unreliable. It is also why I think the criticism that she's stupid during the early part of the stories is unfair, completely unfair. Sansa is not stupid, she is kind of uneducated in the particular realities of the world she enters. There is an enormous difference between them. She knows how to behave at court because she has been taught how to behave at court. What she doesn't know is that the rules of courtly behavior are often a facade covering an entirely different game, the Game of Thrones. Once she learns, however, she soon turns the obligations of court into a useful tool. She understands that courtesy can protect her. She tells Tyrion that courtesy is a lady's armor, and that line represents an enormous shift in her character. The armor metaphor matters to Sansa Stark's character. A sword is obvious. Everyone can see when someone is carrying a sword. Courtesy and armor are different. It allows Sansa to conceal herself in plain sight. She can smile at someone she distrusts. She can say the appropriate words without revealing what she actually thinks. She can perform the role expected of her while keeping parts of herself hidden. That is why her repeated description of herself as a little bird is so significant. After her father's death, Sansa thinks, "I'm only a little bird, repeating the words they taught me." At first glance, this sounds like an admission of helplessness. But there is another way of reading it. The little bird has been taught a song, and Sansa is beginning to understand that songs can be performed strategically. This is important because Sansa's method of survival is never going to look like Arya's. Arya responds to the collapse of her world by rejecting many of the identities that were imposed upon her. She becomes someone who can move through the world without being easily recognized. She learns to fight, she learns to lie, she learns to become other people. While Sansa is out there doing something completely opposite. She becomes better at being the person everyone expects her to be. That isn't necessarily a lesser form of intelligence, it is simply a different survival coping mechanism. She begins the story understanding herself primarily through other people's expectations. She is Ned Stark's first daughter. She is the Lady of Winterfell. She is Joffrey's future queen. She is supposed to be beautiful. She is supposed to marry him. But after everything that happens to her, she slowly begins to understand that being valuable to other people is not the same thing as having value as a person. And I think that's why Sansa Stark deserves some grace